Hello students, welcome to Sri Vardhaman Vidyalay online education. Today we will see the part 4 of an chapter 13, magnetic effect of electric current. In this part, we will discuss about the magnetism in human being. So, magnetism in human being, extremely weak electric current are produced in the human body by the movement of charged particles called ions, and these are called ion current. Now, we have studied that whenever there is an electric current, a magnetic field is produced. So, when the weak ionic current flow along the nerve cells, they produce a magnetic field in our body. For example, when we try to touch something with our hand, our nerves carries electric impulses to the approximate muscles, and these electric impulses create a temporary magnetisms in the body. The magnetisms produced in the human body is very weak as compared to the earth's magnetism. The two main organs of a human body where the magnetic field produced is quite significant are the heart and brain. The magnetisms produced inside the human body by the flow of ionic current forms the basic of a technique called magnetic resonance image, which is used to obtain the image of the internal part of our body. So, it is obviously that the magnetism has an important use in the medical diagnosis because through the MRI scan, it enables the doctor to see inside the body. So, how the magnetisms in will be helpful in human being? So, it will be used in the form of means a technique called as a magnetic resonance imaging. So, for example, MRI can detect cancer tissues inside the body of the cell. So, please note that the magnetisms in our human body is actually electromagnetisms, which is produced by the flow of ionic current inside the human body. So, before we go further, the describing that the force acting on the current carrying conductor placed in the magnetic field. So, you can see here the magnetic nanoparticles destroy the cancer cell. So, under the magnetic field, the multifunctional nanoparticles can reach us into the cancer cells, piercing their membrane. And the nanoparticle's core is nothing but its iron oxide. The researcher has discovered that under the magnetic field, the particles inside the cancer cells are able to break through the membranes of a cancer cell. So this is a cancer cell. How using a magnetic nanoparticles we can destroy the cancer cell. Now this is a magnetic resonance image. So this is an instrument that we are calling as an MRI. So through the MRI we can see the internal part of our organs. So the image like that is how the MRI can. What is MRI? So the magnetic resonance image use a fixed or a static magnetic field, rapidly changing gradient magnetic field and radio frequency signal to visualize anatomy, tissues characteristic, vascular flow, perfusions and diffusions, chemical composition of tissue. So you can see this. This is the example of an MRI that will be given. So these are some of the examples. So this is the MRI of an cardiac. Okay, and this is the MRI of an brain. So how we can get the MRI of this one? Next, we are going to see that electric motor, and it is very important questions. So first, what is motor? A motor is a device which converts electric energy into mechanical energy. So in motor, the electric energy will be converted into a mechanical energy. Every motor has a shaft or a spindle which rotate continuously when the current is passed into it. The rotation of its shaft is used to drive the various type of machines in the home and industries. For example, electric motor is used in electric fan, washing machine, refrigerator, mixer, grinder, electric car, and many other appliances. So a common electric motor works on a direct current. So it is called as a DC motor, which means the direct current motor. The electric motors which are going to discuss now is actually an DC motor. First we will see the principle of an motor. So the electric motor utilizes the magnetic effect of the current. So a motor works on the principle that when a rectangular coil is placed in a magnetic field, a current is placed through it. A force acts on a coil which rotates it continuously. When the coil rotates, the shaft attached it also rotates. In this way, the electric energy supplied to the motor is converted into the mechanical energy of rotation. So in the principle, so there is one rectangular coil that will be placed in a magnetic field and the current is passes through it. What happens? The force will be acts on a coil which rotates the shaft continuously. So when the coil rotates, what happens? The shaft attached to the it is also rotate. So in this way what happens? The electric energy will be converted into a mechanical energy. So this is the principle of a motor. Now next we will see the constructions and a working of an electric motor. So an electric motor consists of a rectangular coil A, B, C, D of insulated copper wire. So here you will see that is an electric motor will be consist of one rectangular coil. So this is a rectangular coil of A, B, C and D. A coil is placed between the two poles of magnetic field such that the arm A, B and C, D are perpendicular to the directions of magnetic field. Now, so this is a rectangular coil A, B, C, D. This rectangular coil is placed in between the two magnets. Okay, so it will be placed in such a way that they are perpendicular to each other. So the coil is placed between the pole of magnetic field such that the arm A, B and C, D are perpendicular to the directions of magnetic field. So these are the directions of this is a magnetic field. So these are directions perpendicular to the magnetic field. The end of the coil are connected to the two halves P and Q of a split ring. So the end of the coil. So here the end of the coil will be connected to a two split ring, that is a P and the Q of a split ring. So you can see this diagram. So the end of this one will be connected to the P and a Q of a split ring. So this is the P and the Q of a split ring. So you can see the split ring. Okay. So here the name is changed, that is an B1 and the B2. Okay, so these are the split rings. So just to describe the diagram, so we have changed that one. Okay, so the inner side of these halves are insulated and attached to an axle. So then next the inner half is it will be attached to an axle. So this P and Q it will be attached to an axle. Okay. The external connecting edges of P and Q touch the two conducting stationary brushes X and Y. So it will be that is an P and Q, it will be connected to an a brush that is an X and Y. Okay. This is an what construction. Now we will see the working. So the current in the coil ABCD enter from the sources of the battery through the conducting brush S, X and flow back to the battery through the brush Y. Okay, now you can see this one. So here what happens? So this X will be connected to a battery key and this one. So what happens when a current is flow, that it will be enter into the current in the coil ABC enter from the sources of battery conducting brush X and flow back through the battery through the brush Y. So it will be enter from a battery X and it will be flow back through an Y of a brush. Okay. Notice that the current in the arm AB of the coil flow from A to B, and in the arm CD it flows from C to D, that is opposite to the directions of the current through the arm AB. Okay, now here when a current is flowing from an A to B, where in an a C it will be flow from an a C to D. So it will be in an A it is in this directions, where in the C it will be in an opposite direction. So that is mentioned. So the current in the arm AB of the coil flow from A to B, and in the arm CD it flow from C to D, that is it opposite to the direction of the current through the arm AB. On applying a Fleming's left hand rule for the directions of the force on the current carrying conductors in a magnetic field. So now we find that the force acting on the arm AB pushes it in a downward, while the force acting on an arm CD pushes it in an upward. So here what happens, this will be pushed in a downward directions, where an CD will be pushed in an upward direction. So when the force acting on an arm AB pushes it downward, where the force acting on the arm CD pushes in the upward direction. So here you can see the diagram. So in this diagram, the AB, it will be pushed in the downward directions, okay, when the force will be act. So when it will be pushed in a downward directions, what happens, the CD will be pushed in an upward direction. So it will be rotate like this, okay. So what happens when it will be pushed in an upward and downward? So thus the coil and the axle O mounted freely to turn about the axis rotate in an anti-clockwise directions. So when it will be AB pushed in a downward and CD will be pushed in the upward direction, so this the coil will be O, it will be rotate in an anti-clockwise directions, okay. So in this directions what happens, it will be rotate. So when it will be rotate, so what happens, the split will be half. So at a half rotations, the Q makes a contact with a brush X, and a P will make a contact with a brush Y. So during a half rotations, what happens, that is a P will be making a contact with a Y, and Q will be making a contact with a X. So that is given, that is Q making a contact with a brush X and P with a brush Y. So during half rotations, P will make a contact with a Y, and where that is an Q will make a contact with an X. So during this half rotation, so what happens, this will happen. So half rotations will be take place. Now therefore the current in the coil gets reversed. So now the what happens, the coil will be reversed. So the flow along the path will be DCBA. So what happens, so what will be the flow, first will be ABCD. Now the flow will be the reverse, that is on a DCBA. So the reverse of an flow will be take place. A device that reverses the directions of the flow of current through a coil is called as an commuters. So in the electric motors, the split ring acts as an commuters. The reverse of the current also reverses the directions of force acting on the two arm AB and CD. Now after another half rotations, what happens? So in the first half rotations, the AB will be moved in the downward directions and CD will be moved in an upward directions. Now in the second half, when a reverse of a current will be flow, what happens now? Now this will be the reverse of a flow, current will be flow in this one DCBA. Now this CD will be moves in a downward directions and AB will be moves in an upward directions. So the reversal of the current also reverses the directions of force acting on the two arm AB and CD. So thus the arm AB of a coil that was earlier pushed downward is now pushed upward, and the arm CD previously pushed upward is now pushed downward. Therefore the coil and the axle rotates half a turn more in the same direction. So another half it is will be rotate. Now reversing of the current is repeated at each half rotations gives rise to the continuous rotations of coil to the axle. So first what happens, in the first half the AB will be moves in a downward and CD will be moves in an upward. So in the CD will be in an upward directions. So in a second half what happens, the CD will be moves in the downward directions and an AB will be moves in an upward direction. So like this what happens, that it will rotate the axle. So there will be the continuous rotations of an axle will be happens. So during this continuous motions what happens, the electric energy will be converted into a mechanical energy. So the conventional motor used as an electromagnetic in the place of permanent magnet. A large number of the turns of conducting wire in the current carrying coil and the soft core on which the coil is wound. The soft iron core on which the coil is wound plus the coil is called armature. So this enhances the power of motor. So this is the uh, begins us, so that it is very important. Describe the electric motors with an diagram. So this is the diagram of an electric motors. Okay, this is with an what you can say with parts. So here you can see that is an a two permanent magnet. Now this is an a rectangular coil, that is A B C D. So it is given. Now if in a during a half rotations, first half rotations, what happens, that is AB will be moves in a downward directions and CT will be moves in an upward direction. So that is a rotations of an a coil will be anti-clockwise. So it will be in this one. So at that time what happens, that is the P will be connected with an a Y and the Q will be connected with an a X. Okay, so this is a commutator rotates within a coil. Next, second half rotations, what happens when an a CD will be moves in an upward direction, that will be moves in downward directions, where AB will be moves in an upward directions. So like that what happens, there will be the continuous rotations of an axles will be there, and at that time what happens, electric energy will be converted into the mechanical energy. Now electromagnetic inductions. We have studied that when a current carrying conductor is placed in the magnetic field such that the directions of the current is perpendicular to the magnetic field, it experiences a force. This force causes a conductor to move. So now let us imagine a situation in which the conductor is moving inside a magnetic field, or a magnetic field is changing around a fixed conductor. What will happen? So this was first studied by an English physician, that is Michael Faraday. In 1831, Faraday made an important breakthrough by the discovering how a moving magnet can be used to generate electric current. So to observe this effect, let us perform some activity. So activity 13.8. Take a coil of a wire AB having a large number of turns. So we are taking a coil AB having a large number of turns. So connect the end of the coil to the galvanometer. So you are connecting this end of the coil to the galvanometer. So this is an coil having many turns, and this will be connected to a galvanometer, and this is a photo of a Michael Faraday. Now take a strong bar magnet and move its north pole towards the end B of the coil. So do you find any change in the galvanometer needle? So here we are bringing in a what bar magnets, and so this is an a coil of an end A and B. So the north pole of an a bar magnet is bring towards an end B of an a coil. What happens? There will be any deflections in an a galvanometer? Yes, so there will be the deflections in the galvanometer. There is a momentary deflections in the needle of galvanometer, that is to an right side. So the deflections of galvanometer through an right side, there will be deflections when it will be north pole of the bar magnet is moved towards an B. So this indicates the presence of current in the coil AB. The deflections become zero the moment that the motions of a magnet stop. Okay, so when we move this bar magnet towards an B, what happens? There is a deflections in the galvanometers towards an right. When the movement of a bar magnet is stopped, what happens? The deflections in the galvanometer become zero. Now we draw the north pole of the magnet away from the coil. Now the galvanometer is deflected towards the left, showing that the current is now set up in the directions opposite to the first. So we are just changing the pole. What happens? The galvanometer deflections will be towards the right, left side. So this will be indicates there will be the directions opposite to the first one. Now place the magnet stationary at the point near the coil, keeping it to the north pole towards the B of the coil. We see that the galvanometer needle deflects towards the right when the coil is moved towards the north pole of the magnet. Okay, so when we'll bring in a north pole of a magnet towards a coil, so it will deflect towards the right. Similarly, the needle moves towards the left when the coil is moved away. So when we moving a bar magnet away from it, what happens, the deflections will be in a left. So when the coil is kept stationary with respect to the magnet, the deflections of the galvanometer drops to 0. So from this activity we can say that there will be the force. So that will be the force that you can find out. Okay, so what is galvanometer? Galvanometer is an instrument that can detect the presence of current in the circuit. The point remains at the 0, that is at the center of the scale, for the 0 current flowing through it. It can deflect either to the left or to the right of the 0 marks depending upon the directions of current. Now you can also check that if you had moved the south pole of the magnet towards the end of the coil, the deflections in the galvanometer would just be opposite to the previous case. When the coil and the magnet are both stationary, there are no deflections in the galvanometer. So it is clear from this activity that the motion of the magnet with respect to the coil produces an induced potential difference which set up the induced electric current in the circuit. So using a magnetic field, we are inducing an electric current. Okay, so that it will create a potential difference. So when so this is a apparatus of the galvanometer. Okay, so at its center the deflections will be the 0. So this will be the how that is induced. Now you can see this is the diagram. Okay, so this is a coil, okay, that will be connected to the galvanometer. First, when we are bringing the north pole towards this one, so the galvanometer shows a deflections in a left hand side. So when will be moves away from it, what happens, it will be moves in an opposite directions. Okay, so this will be happens. Now in this also, that is electromagnetic, and it will be moves towards the, but that will be shows in a deflections in a right hand side. Okay, in the south pole. If we had reversed that pole, then again what happens, the directions of an deflections in the galvanometer is also reversed. Thank you. We will meet in the next part of this session.